pilgrimage, not only for Jews, but also for Christians and Muslims, to ask his intercession for any family problems that they had, and in particular, to ask his help in cases of blindness, quite widespread in Egypt. Here I met one Ahmad Salama, who claims to be the guardian of the cemetery, but in fact is probably a squatter from the local Ma'ali Bedouin tribe. And he conducted me to the southern end of the cemetery and showed me what seemed to be a gaping hole, quite deep and quite wide. We removed some of the papers and precious books that were on the surface beneath the stones that covered up the hole. These seemed to be late printed texts, but there was no way of knowing what lay underneath these texts, perhaps manuscripts going back several hundred years. Because of the overpopulation in Cairo, many of the local Arabs have taken up residence inside the cemetery, and it's not unusual to find tombstones being used as kitchen tables. Unfortunately, it has been extensively vandalized, and most of the tombstones has disappeared. However, it must be made clear that Jews in Arab countries have always been considered as second-class citizens, and at times have known hours of darkness.
I think it's true to say that there is not a single area of Hebrew and Jewish scholarship which has not been revolutionized by the discoveries of Schechter in the Cairo Geniza. It's not only rabbinic Judaism that's represented in the Geniza. There are other sects that are represented, and one of the sects is, in fact, the Dead Sea sect. It seems that the ideas of the Dead Sea sect in the 9th and 10th centuries were taken on by the Karaites. They were then circulated in the communities of Cairo, other communities, and when the rabbis came across them, they removed them from circulation, placing them in a Geniza. Before the rabbinic authorities put a stop to such practices in Maimonides' day, marriages took place between Rabbinite and Karaite Jews, sort of the Orthodox and Reform of the day. And each side agreed not to offend the religious principles of the other. The Karaites disapproved of marital relations on the Shabbat, would not eat certain parts of the animal permitted by the Rabbinites, had their own dates for festivals, and refused to enjoy light or fire on Shabbat, even if kindled beforehand. Some marriage contracts stipulated a Karaite wife's right to adhere to her customs.
I pledge to observe and be respectful of the Karaite laws which are practiced by my wife. For example, that she need not light candles on Friday night, nor would I oblige her to eat certain parts of the animal which are forbidden by Karaite custom.
The Karaites believed that Judaism had to go back to the Bible. They did not believe that the Talmud was authoritative, and so they rejected rabbinic law and opted for a more biblical kind of Judaism. And so here, the Damascus document was clearly retained by the Karaite sect in Egypt as one of their texts, and was placed in the Geniza by the Rabbinites who objected to its existence.
My name is Obadiah Gamil. I was born 45 years ago in Cairo. I am a Karaite Jew, now living in Israel. I and some other Karaite Jews have returned for a visit to Cairo. I have many memories of my childhood here in Cairo. When I was a little boy, my grandfather, may his memory be blessed, would bring me to the synagogue in his arms. Before entering, my grandfather, who was a cantor, would say, "Take off your shoes, as it is written, for this is a holy place." We prostrated ourselves and we prayed. We would light candles and we would feast on the joyous holidays. These are my childhood memories. It was a happy time. I am standing here in the ruins of this other abandoned Karaite synagogue. I remember the ancient splendor of our community, here for over 1,000 years. This was only one of many synagogues which served over 15,000 people. Now there are less than 50 Karaite Jews still living here in Cairo. And this synagogue is now being used as a warehouse or a factory and is in ruins. Where I am now standing is the Bas Hatin Cemetery, once owned by the Karaites. It was given to the Karaite Jews over 1,000 years ago when a daughter of the Muslim Caliph was cured of blindness by a Karaite physician. Many centuries ago, when the Rabbinite Jews had need of cemetery space, we Karaites offered them part of Bas Hatin, and thus it became a cemetery shared by both sects. Although we are two different sects, we are still both Jewish and have very good relations.
There is a question about the cemetery. We have a very large piece of land here in Basatin, but unfortunately, during the last years, it was completely destroyed and stolen. The people who are now in the community, all of them, I can say, that all of them are old, aged, between 70 and 80 years old. We have no young people at all now. Many people ask why you are staying here. You have only 140 persons. I told them, no, I am not staying for these people. I am staying here just to keep the community as an Egyptian Jewish community. This community must remain, must continue for the future, because I expect that in future the community will become bigger and bigger, but we are a part of the country, of the Egyptian country. We are a part here since thousands of years. We have to continue, we have to remain. This is my duty.
In this letter, which is preserved in our Geniza, we have a very moving text of a lady who writes that she is very sick and she has dreams that she's not going to live for too long. And she writes to a relative saying that there is only one request that she has. She wants to make sure that her little daughter receives a good education. And they should bring every sacrifice possible, though it may be very difficult and hard, to provide a good education to that little child the same way as their mother and their father provided them with a good education. It seems to me that this fragment, to some extent, sums up the whole story of the Geniza. It is really learning about other periods, other ages, other groups of people and other ways of life, and to teach for our own generation. And this process of trying to decipher the thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of such fragments is now going on for almost a century, with many gigantic individual achievements, but at the same time also as a kind of a cooperation among scholars in this country, in England, in other parts of Europe, and in Israel. And with modern techniques such as microfilming, and with the dawning upon us of the age of computers, also in terms of Jewish studies and Oriental studies, we may see the results of the study of these documents in a much shorter period than the period that elapsed between the discovery of the documents and today.
After the Second World War, particularly after the creation of the State of Israel, scholars from the Hebrew University and other Jewish scholars from all around the world, as well as scholars